So I want to talk about articulation in electronic music. So I'm going to be breaking down my new tune, Hairline Fracture. The link will be in the description if you want to check it out. Here's a little bit of it right now.
I've been calling the word every night. I sit up in my room, write things I never say to you. Like moving out of state to Miami or LA. Like, baby, did that cross your mind? Am I on your mind? Goes
All right. So I want to talk about 5 articulation techniques that I used. Those are volume automation, pitch automation, risers, synthesizer glide, and sidechain compression. So what I've actually done is I've bounced a version of that chorus without any of those active. Take a listen.
I've been calling the word every night. I sit up in my room, write things I never say to you. Like moving out of state to Miami or...
Yeah, so it sounds pretty flat. It doesn't have a lot of expression. And that's something that I hear people say about electronic music as a whole a lot, that it's not musical and that it can't emote. And what I would say to those people is that it absolutely can. It just uses different techniques than other styles of music. So a key difference between this and other styles is that it's not done in real time, typically. It's not improvised, it's not played with a band, it's not played with an ensemble. And as such, without proper attention to detail, the musicality of your individual tracks can actually suffer. But on the flip side, there's also opportunities for expression that really can't be emulated in the real world. So when I'm at my DAW, I like to think of myself not only as a musician and an engineer, but also sort of as a visual artist, in that I have all the time I want to slowly paint my sonic canvas however I see fit. So with that being said, the first technique I want to talk about is volume automation. So when I say volume, I really mean dynamics. And the first question I want to ask myself is a big picture question. And that's, what is the dynamic flow that I want to accent in this mix? And for this one, it's going to be the vocal melody. The cadence of the vocal melody is what's leading this whole section. All of the instruments accent and follow that. So I'm going to play you just the bass and the vocals. And pay close attention to this automation data right here. See it rises,
I sit up in my room,
takes a break, and backs
things
off,
I never
rises,
say to you.
and it takes a breath with the vocals. And that's really the most important thing. I want all of my instruments to speak and to breathe with the vocals. That's what gives this section such a cool effect. So now that I have my big picture goal, what I have to do is I have to go to every single one of my tracks and I have to ask myself, if I was in an orchestra and this was my part, how would I play, express, and interpret it with that goal in mind? So with this lead right here, kind of a similar thing. I start super low, bring it up, take a breath, I bring it back a little, rises even more, holds this note, longer breath, etc. You get the idea. And it can be a tedious process, but it's really important to give all of your tracks their own distinct voice and character. And once you do that, the sum of all of your tracks having that distinct identity is what's going to really make your mix speak. So the next thing I want to touch on is pitch automation of percussion. So this is something that is not directly emulatable in the real world. And of course you can change the timbre of drums and stuff like that, but I'm talking about hard pitch shifting. And if you find yourself in this digital space, you might as well lean into the things that make your medium unique, you know? Here it is in solo, here it is in the mix. It's unique, just one to keep in your back pocket. The next one I want to mention is risers. So risers are super common in electronic music, especially in dance music and stuff, like right before a drop or something like that. But that's not the only way they can be used. You can also use risers or reverse ambiances, reverse percussion, whatever, just to add some accent, add some weight to your sounds. So check out this tom. It's a fine tom. It's pretty heavy. It's got Wave Submarine on it. It's got this nice little whip across the stereo image. It's a nice sound. But listen to how much heavier it is when I add the same sound reversed leading up to it. That anticipation is what makes it so great. This is an important time to note. All of this must be done tastefully. Articulation is something it's super easy to overdo, but it's also something that you will sorely miss if you forego it. So listen to these toms in the mix.
Like moving out of state to Miami or LA. Like, baby, did that grow?
That's some really nice sound. Next thing I want to talk about is Synthesizer glide. So in terms of traditional instruments, this would be a Portamento or a Glissando, depending on what instrument you're talking about. And all that means is instead of hitting your note straight on and jumping to the next one, you're going to slide smoothly between them. So listen to these two bass, the sawtooth and the sub. Here's the same phrase, but without any glide. Can really make your instruments flow nicely. It can add some nice movement, some nice character. This can be accessed in your digital synth. Here in Monarch, it's right here. Here in Massive, it's in the oscillator tab. It is worth noting this only works on monophonic instruments. Please do not try and glide your polyphonic instruments. All right, and the last thing I wanted to mention is sidechain compression. So sidechain compression is just a type of compression in which the track that's being compressed is being controlled by the output of another track that you've selected. So that's a lot of words, but what do I mean by that? So right here, this is my main vocal track. I've got a compressor on it. And as I'm sure you know, the compressor is not going to act until the vocal signal exceeds the threshold. So I've set my threshold at 0 dB, and my vocals aren't clipping, so it shouldn't be doing anything. And I can see that that's true because I'm going to play it, and this monitor isn't going to do anything.
Every night
Cool. And as I bring down the threshold, I'm going to see more and more compression.
I sit up in my room, write things I'd never say to you.
So all of these principles hold true with sidechain compression, except for one thing. The compressor is no longer going to be listening to this track that it's on. It's going to listen to whatever track I assign it, which in this case is going to be the kick. So now I'm going to solo out the drums and the vocals, and I want you to listen, and I want you to watch this monitor. As the kick hits, the vocals are going to begin to duck down as I lower the threshold.
Every night I sit up in my room, write things I'd never say to you.
Right. So it's not something I would often put on my main vocal track, but it can add a lot of movement, a lot of character to your basses, to your leads, to lots of other stuff. And that's the one I want to close on because that's my personal favorite for this mix right here. It really makes the whole thing seem like it's breathing and it's pumping as one thing. So let me just play you the vocals, the bass, and the synthesizer bus. The bass bus and the synthesizer bus both have these two identical compressors. This one is listening for the kick, this one for the snare. Take a look.
Every night I sit up in my room, write things I'd never say to you.
Really adds that movement. It's nice. So those are just a few out of tons of articulation techniques that you could use. And you really should use anything that you think will complement your track. Think outside the box, be creative. I just encourage you to ask yourself while you're doing that, how does this instrument express itself? And how does that help the overall musical direction of my mix? That's all I got. I got more views on my last video than I was expecting, so just let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about. Yeah, thanks for watching.